Hello and welcome to another episode of the Unfinished Cubby podcast. With me today is Christine Parfitt. Christine, welcome. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
So I had flagged with you, we can talk about whatever we choose to, but I had put down something, how to determine your priorities and organize your life to match. And the reason that I chose that is because I'm impressed by what you've done recently in doing exactly that, sort of having a real think about how you spend time, how you want to spend time, and then taking steps to create that in your life. Do you want to talk about that straight up?
Yes. Yeah. Can you just tell me why? Why were you impressed with that? Can you kind of start me off in a?
Sure. Well, you actually, the other thing that we could do is come back to this, and the other thing I was going to ask is, do you remember how we met? I actually don't. I feel like we've known each other forever.
Okay. Yes. I do. I remember exactly how we met. Actually, there's a bit of a story behind it from my point of view, in that I'd been working from home for quite a while, a couple of years or so, and I had been really loving working from home until almost like the flick of a switch. I wasn't enjoying it. I felt very isolated. I wasn't happy doing that, and I decided to go and get a coffee in Mullaney, and I met up with a mutual friend of ours now, Jane, who just happened to be there. I didn't arrange to meet her. It was one of those fortuitous moments, if you like. And she happened to be in Mullaney, and I was feeling sufficiently bad about, being isolated, and that when she said, "How are you?" instead of just saying, "I'm fine," I kind of launched into, "I'm really unhappy working from home and I'm feeling really isolated." And so Jane was the one who said, "Well, why don't you come along to she told me about the co-working space, and she told me about the lunch that was the regular lunchtime on Thursdays." So I made an immediate decision that I needed to do something to switch things up a bit, and I came along to the lunch, and then I immediately joined the co-working space. And you were really welcoming. I was really, I was nervous about, I was really, will I fit in? All of those things. And I was really happy at how welcoming everyone was. And that's how I first met you.
Sweet. And so what was that, sort of like 2013-ish or?
Yeah, it would have been about that.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Sweet. There you go. Yeah. Yeah, we're very fortunate here with the IT lunch, as it's called, the regular meetup, which has been going for decades as far as I'm aware, that anyone's welcome to on a Thursday lunch. And then, yeah, that co-working space has evolved a few times. It was, it's now, of course, the Tree House, but then was the Code Cave, a little dungeon underneath the
That's
bookstore.
where I started.
Yeah.
I think I did 2 years in the Code Cave, and funnily enough, now I really enjoy working from home again, and it's not a problem for me. It just shows that, and I guess it can lead into talking about priorities. And I can't remember exactly what you said we were going to talk about, but it can lead into that, because I think one thing I've learned is that there's no one thing that suits me and most people, I think, all the time. It's really sort of contextual, like it was okay working from home until it wasn't.
Yeah.
And now it's okay, and now it's okay again. So it's just being aware of how things shift and change like that. They're not,
things have seasons, don't they?
For sure. Yeah.
Actually, let's talk about your home, because you moved there beginning of last year, just before the start of COVID. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. I've got a fairly unconventional living space, as you know, because you've been. And one of the reasons for that, so I'm living on a 5-acre property in regional Australia, in Blackbutt. So it's about 2 hours drive from Brisbane. And it was a place that I had been coming to for weekends, maybe once a month, and loved coming here, and would have loved to have moved here, and never thought that I was able to, because of, you know, like the reasons that I told myself were because it was too far away from clients that I already had. It was too far away from potential clients. So I didn't think it was possible to move here. And I kind of feel that COVID gave me permission myself to do that. I was just about to I was just about to sign a contract on a co-working space on the Sunshine Coast at the Innovation Centre, and they went into lockdown last March. So that wasn't going to work out for me at that point in time. We didn't know then how long that was all going to last, you know. So, and I came up here for a fortnight and then just made a spontaneous decision that I was going to be here permanently. So that was about a year ago. So the unconventional aspect of it is that it was a little bit early to move, in the sense that hadn't really, you know, we kind of pre-build a standard house. So it's kind of pretty much outdoor living with you know, like we've got a shed that I'm in at the moment. You can probably see in the background, and, you know, a few buildings, but it's fairly unconventional. Soon to become a little bit more conventional, but it's unconventional at the moment. Off grid, beautiful, quiet, peaceful, you know. So it's been good.
I love that you've done that, and it's really inspiring. I do want to live more like that. I guess a little bit closer to nature, and I guess a lot more removed from stresses and busyness is something that I see about living in the country, even while maintaining the same kind of tech work that you do. The way you put it, like the stories that you tell yourself that prevent it, I'm really aware of that for myself with various things like that, sort of looking at, I think I'd really like life to be like that, but it's just, it's so different that it looks like a fantasy or a dream compared to what I'm used to and what's routine. There really is a big leap, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, and also, I mean, it does depend on circumstances, and, you know, I had the kind of privilege and freedom of you know, like being able to suit myself with this. You know, I don't have I didn't have a lot of other people to consider when making that choice. So yeah, it does depend quite a bit on individual circumstances, for sure.
Sure. Yeah.
So what was the original premise?
Yes. Well, so you reached out to me kind of recently and said that you realized the way you spoke. So you and I, as sort of tech people with our own businesses, we like building things, but we also know that we need to have clients that we build them for, and to do that we need to do some kind of marketing. And we're told, you know, we need to create a profile on LinkedIn or start a podcast or whatever. And that was a joke. But yeah, you sort of thought, well, like going and doing a whole bunch of LinkedIn posts is just not something that I'm interested in at all. So instead of doing that, and considering the amount of time that takes, I could work for less if I have a channel of exactly the kind of work that I love doing coming to me in exactly the way I want it to come, and then approached myself and a number of your other clients with a proposal like that. Is that a good summary of what you did?
It is a good summary. It is a good summary, and I think it also ties into the fact that it really depends on the context. It's not that I think that because you know, it's not that I think that using LinkedIn and growing your business and all of those things is a bad idea, because clearly, clearly it's what most people do, when they're working for themselves. I think it was more the fact that, and I think what I always used to do is really pay a lot of attention to what other people were saying that you should do. So, like this idea that if you, the things that you should do in order to grow your business. And while that advice might be good, I think one thing I was missing was who was that advice really aimed at, like in the first place, and how does it fit my particular circumstances? And there might have been a time, or there certainly would have been a time, like 15, 20 years ago, where like it would have been irrelevant, the fact that I didn't particularly enjoy doing LinkedIn posts or something. I would have done it anyway, and it would have been the right thing to do. But I think it was I just had the idea that while it's good to listen to advice, it's how does it fit your own particular set of circumstances? And I think that was the piece that I was missing. And when I really looked at it, it's kind of related to moving here as well. It's that giving myself permission and going against the grain for a good reason, not because I didn't want to do hard things, or I didn't want to do things that I didn't like doing, but really like looking at my own circumstances and seeing what was relevant for me at this stage in my career, in my life, in my home circumstances. And I mean, it's a bit selfish, but why not? I've just kind of really thought about what I enjoyed doing, what I didn't really enjoy doing, what was my shortest and easiest path to getting what I wanted, basically, and also to give value to other people as well. And really using the network of people that I already have, rather than reaching out to a lot of unknown people, was just seemed like more appropriate for what I wanted to do. So so the way I went about it is, as you know, is I thought about a couple of people, yourself included, who I really wanted to work with, and I had a good idea of the work that I wanted to do. And basically I was thinking, how can I make an offer that you just can't refuse, but that still works for me? And it kind of seems to have been, and this idea of how much how much income should you be making, that's tied in with a whole lot of emotions and pressure, and and I really had to unpack that and sort of be confident to myself about my reasons for doing things, and seeing the bigger picture, and not just taking like a piece of advice like you should be charging this much, or this is how much you're worth, or something like that. And looking at the bigger picture for me and just pleasing myself, basically, whilst kind of like making it work for other people as well.
And I love it, because it means being able to take on some really valuable community type projects that otherwise are difficult to justify, that they often don't have the budgets to pay for a team on full rates. But can you tell me what your process was to determine that? And I ask for personal reasons. I've made a dramatic shift in my life in coming and staying at this eco village, and there's a lot of positives in that. But and there was a deliberateness to it. I think that's a key word, being deliberate about what you choose to do. That's certainly true. But I'm really lost as to my next step. And sometimes it's so much easier to move from a situation where something's clearly not working to moving from where everything's basically okay, but I what yeah, if there's not that extreme pressure to change something, then we tend to not change, which is prudent. But I don't, yeah, I know things can be better. How do I sit down and figure out how to know what I
Yeah,
want and make it so? Yeah.
yeah, it's a really good point, that point that you make about in fact, you know, that when things are kind of okay, the changing is quite difficult in those circumstances. The pain has to be enough that the
Mm.
pain of changing has to be has to match the pain that you're feeling. And if things are kind of okay, it's just easy to just carry on. And I'm really guilty of that all the time as well. And I wish I had a process. I wish I did have a process to share. I think that, like, if not a process as such, but if there's something, if there's one thing that I'm really trying to improve for myself, I would say it's so it's paying attention to how I am feeling being a good word rather than thinking, but just like maintaining a bit more awareness of, like, am I happy doing what I'm doing, or is there? And so for me, it's often that it feels kind of okay, or it seems to be kind of okay, but there's maybe like a low level of anxiety, um or like just a feeling that it's not quite what I want. And it's kind of if I had any process at all, it's paying attention to those kind of feelings, and sort of digging deeper, and then basically just trying to unpack what's behind it. And just because, and I think one of the things that's helped me as well is, I have a tendency to think that when I, if I've got some kind of idea for a change, or if I think of a solution to, okay, this could be improved by doing this, I don't need to act on it straight away. It's okay for that to be true for me, and then to sit with that. And I tend to be quite impulsive, so just sitting with that for a while and really paying attention has been the thing that's helped me a lot. But if I'm being totally honest, though, the reason that I came up with the model of working that I've got at the moment was out of the necessity to change, rather than things are kind of more or less okay, and I'm just it was out of that necessity. I have to do something. So I'm just as guilty as
All right. And yeah, right. And that was, I need some business to come in.
Yeah, I made the decision to move here. I knew that it was going to make things a little bit difficult for me in terms of not. I would have to make a lot more effort to get myself in front of people who I know who are my potential clients, and that while there are things that I can do about that, it's not as easy as maybe going along to some events, or meeting up with people, because I'm that much further away, and also I actually enjoy just making things and doing things rather than that kind of activity as well.
Yeah, me too. And I mean, I know you've got like a really solid foundation in Buddhism, and a long-standing practice, and I guess a lot of what you were talking about, then paying attention, sounded like that's that training.
Right. Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I wasn't sure exactly what we were going to talk about, and I know you mentioned work-life balance. So I think that was one of the original ideas that we had to talk about. And
that's my official theme for the Unfinished Cubby is work-life balance.
okay.
But yeah, go on.
So I did do, I did, I did actually do a little bit of thinking about that, about work-life balance, and I kind of realised that I'd never even really thought about it in that way. Like, I mean, I hear people talk about work-life balance all the time, but I'd never even sort of sat down and thought, what does it, like, what does it even mean? And like, and I think it's true for most people these days that it's quite hard to put work in one corner and life in another, and sort of really, particularly with the kind of work that we do. And so I had quite a bit of a think about that, like, what is work, what is life, and what does it mean for them, like, for them to be in balance. I'm really interested to hear what you think as well. But one of the things that that you mentioned, like Buddhism, and how what I said about awareness and self-awareness sounds, like, ties into that Buddhist way of thinking, and it does, certainly. Like, that, a lot of that has come from my, like, my practice, Buddhist practice, and what I was thinking in terms of work is that I'm going off on a long train of thought here, so I hope I can connect the dots somewhere along the way. But the one thing that I realized when I was thinking about it was that my work, and I know your work too, is very much centered around solving problems, and solving problems, coming up with ideas, and I'm kind of, and I felt, I enjoy that. I enjoy it as well. I kind of like problem solving. I like coming up with new ideas. I like, thinking of the answers. But what I was finding was that, so that's very much work mode for me. But what I really find is that, partly because it really ties in with my identity as a problem solver. Like, so I don't know whether it's because I do that all day at work, so that habit, that muscle is really kind of exercised for me all the time. I'm always, like, thinking of how to solve problems. But it really kind of spills over into, if we are going to separate work and life, it really kind of spills over into my life, in the sense that it's quite difficult for me to separate work and life, in the sense that I can't just stop thinking about work because I'm solving problems at work. The solutions for a problem will come to me when I'm not officially working, if you see what I mean. So there's that aspect of it. But then, so that's kind of, but then there's also the aspect of it that, because I'm so used to problem solving, I kind of feel as though I have to solve all the problems, like, not just work problems, but I'm constantly thinking about solutions to things, and
innovating and optimizing everything in your life.
Yes, not just my life, but
all right,
in the world. My life, in the world. I mean, maybe it's not quite as bad as that, but certainly I have that tendency. And so it was really interesting to me when I was thinking about work-life balance, and if I had to, and also, like, am I really happy, or are there ways in which I could be happier? And I think that that's sort of reducing that sort of level of anxiety that comes with, there's a problem to be solved and I haven't solved it yet, is a good thing for me to work on. I don't have to be solving all of the problems all of the time. So
it's very meta. So your mission is to teach yourself that you don't need to have a mission.
Yeah, and I think that this what we started off talking about, and maybe I wasn't clear exactly how I've changed my way of working, but so just to be clear on what I'm doing now is, I do like working for myself. So I like the flexibility of choosing who I work with, what I work on, the hours that I work, the location that I work, all of those things. So it's really important for me to have that freedom. But the thing that I've changed is that it's kind of a hybrid between working for myself and working for other people, in the sense that now I have like 2 or 3 clients that I do, yourself included, that I do like a day's work for, that begins and ends in that day, normally speaking. So what I've tried to do is eliminate a lot of the background mental load that comes with constantly thinking about, where is this project up to? Have I, juggling different projects? I'm trying to sort of simplify it, which it's not that I can't do it, it's just that I don't want to do it. So it's part of that. And it's not that I know, it's not that I didn't enjoy doing that previously. It's just that it's part of like the deliberate decision that I've made to, and it is connected with work-life balance, because it's reducing that mental load that comes with constantly thinking about a particular projects. And by taking action in my work life, and then also paying attention to when I'm in that problem solving mode the rest of the time, it's kind of hopefully going some way to reducing that sort of low level anxiety which comes with like being in problem solving mode.
No,
and the way I don't know if that makes sense even.
Well, it makes sense to me, and I'll say it in my own.
I'd be interested to, yeah.
Well, like because one of the challenging things about running your own business is having to do absolutely everything yourself. So your business is going to be focused around something that you really care about and love doing, and you get to do some of that still. But you also need to make sure that you've got clients and you've got work coming in, and that means some form of marketing or putting yourself out there. And then you have also just all of, and that is it is a thing that's kind of always on. And then you need to like simultaneously be delivering on whatever you've got, and you're not just, when you're a sole trader, especially, or even a small operation, but no, especially as a sole trader, and you're not just doing the work, you're also project managing it, you're dealing with the client, you're doing every aspect of that. And then there's all your tax obligations and just all of this kind of stuff that you just don't need to worry about as an employee. And like there's a buzz in a lot of that, but there's a stress in a lot of that too. And I think what you've kind of done is managed to outsource an enormous amount of that running a business overhead out to your clients, which I think is really clever.
Yeah. Yes, in a sense that I've, it's almost like, it's almost like I've chosen some agents. I've chosen agents for me. So. And like, just to reiterate as well, it's because it suits me at my time in what I want to achieve. It's absolutely appropriate for someone, say like in their 20s 30s or whatever. It's absolutely worth it to do all of those hard things and build a business. But it just goes to show as well that we have a choice and we can choose to do something differently. So yeah. What do you think about the problem? Do you identify, or does it resonate with you, this it's so well developed in our work life, the problem solving ability, that it spills over? Do you think it's a function of that's highly developed in us because of work, or do you think it's just a personality trait? And I'm kind of curious as to.
Great question. First, I want to, when you were speaking about that, and you know that you're never turned off, you're always working on something and solutions just come to you, like that is something that I really, really enjoy about this stuff. And I've had it a lot on a project that I'm on at the moment, actually. I'm suddenly awake at 4 a.m. and an answer is there that
Yeah.
that wasn't. And I really enjoy that. I feel like that is what we have in tech, like the connection to the, what do they call it? Like the muse that
Yes.
other artistic creatives have, of just
Mhm.
suddenly like all of these things fit together and it's there. It's
Yeah.
so I really love that. But I think you were probably more talking about like that constant left brain, just thinking as a habit. And I think it is definitely, you know, there's something genetic, there's something in my personality that inclines me to that. But I also probably think much more that the nurture side of it and the habit of doing it and learning to take a break from it is a thing. It's tricky, and I know when I meditate, everything in my life is better and easier, and I find it so
Yeah.
difficult to do that. I yeah.
Yeah. It's really interesting. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah, it's really interesting what you say. And actually, what's interesting to me as well is when you were saying that it's something that you enjoy, because it's something that I enjoy too, and I've been thinking quite a lot about that. And it's not to say that I don't want to enjoy it, but when you were talking about, you know, priorities before, it's I think it's, you know, like there's the satisfaction that comes with a solution coming to you, and that, so there's that side of it. There's a satisfaction when you do arrive at a solution, and then there's also the, well, for me anyway, um, there's also the kind of identity or ego side of it, that I see myself as a good problem solver, and I like it when other people praise me
Mm.
for, you know, like being able to solve problems. And, you know, like, and then like the dopamine hit, the more that happens, the more, you know, so I get that hit a lot because it's happens in my job, you know, like, and so I like the rewards of
Mm.
feeling, you know, like feeling as though I've solved the problems. But one thing I've been thinking about that, you know, sort of ties into what you were saying about meditation, is that it's not so much that I don't want that to be part of my identity, or that I want to stop doing that. It's more that I just want to be aware of where that's in conflict with, you know, like if I had to think about how I would like to see myself on like as a hierarchy, or, you know, like then sort of being happier in the moment, or you know, or being more content, being more present, being more content, all of those things that, you know, it's kind of like being aware of where that's in conflict with that
Sure.
sort of the thinking mind. So it's not so much that I don't value the thinking mind, I do value it, but it doesn't have to be on all the time. So, you know, like if I had to have you know, if I had to think about work-life balance again, it's so let's just say that there is work and there is life, and, you know, I don't think they are separate, but just for,
I
let's just say
totally
that there
agree,
is.
and everyone criticizes me on calling it that and just
Well,
life
that's the
balance,
standard
but
term.
it's a
Yeah, that's,
term. That's right. Yeah.
but let's, and it's kind of convenient. So let's just say, but it is interesting to think, well, what's work and what's life? But let's just say that there is, because we do understand it on a conventional level as well. You know, like that's why it's used. That's why the term's used. So let's say that there's work and there's life. I've just forgotten my train of thought here.
Sorry.
Oh, yeah, so the work-life balance, I think that where it needs to be more in balance for me is when I'm doing something that isn't work, you know, like let's assume that there's work and there's life. So in my life, when I'm not working, um, I think that it's the overthinking mind that's out of balance with what I want, how I want to be. You know, I don't want to be going for a walk, and yeah, it's fair enough if the solution pops into my head, but I don't want to be out walking and churning over a
Mm.
problem. without, you know, like without realizing it. So then that comes back to, you know, like the Buddhist practices. It doesn't have to be Buddhism by any means, that's, you know, it's saying, but it comes back to just paying attention to that, and sort of saying to myself, yeah, it's great that I can solve problems, but I don't have to be solving that problem now. You know, like,
So
let's just pay attention.
where's the point of balance for you of the right amount of left brain problem
Um,
solving thinking?
yeah, I suppose it's not so much balance as appropriate behavior or
Okay.
an appropriate. But then again, then, you know, like, when is it? That's where it gets a little tricky, because then it comes back to what's work and what's life. I mean,
Right.
sometimes I might have officially kind of stopped work for the day, and I might, and I something might come into my head, and I might choose to then, you know, like I might choose to then think about that some more. It's a choice, and it's done with awareness, and it's done, you know, and then it might be that, you know, like I'm out on a walk, and I could be appreciating the present moment a lot more than I am, and I'm thinking about something subconsciously. So it's kind of, so in answer to your question about the balance, it's that thinking, it's the thinking mind for me that's out of balance. That's a direct consequence of work, if you see what I mean. So at least I think it's a consequence of the work, because it's developed at work. It's probably just a personality. It's what the chicken and the egg thing. Did I choose this kind of work because I like that kind of problem solving, or does the work just reinforce that problem solving behavior that then spills over into that gets me out of balance, you know? So yeah, that's more what it is.
And I mean, it also sounds to me like you're just describing like that kind of monkey mind, that unconscious mind going, let's work on this problem now, and just throwing one in there when it's not
Yeah.
part of the space or the need at all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How do
Yeah.
you think about work-life balance, or do you think about it?
Yeah, I do. Look, I'm trying to figure it out. That's a big part of me doing this, is trying
Yeah.
to get an answer to that question. I know when it's out of balance, and I know what it feels like when it's in balance. When it's in balance, definitely a part of it is I'm not thinking about things other than what I'm doing. So today, or in this moment, I'm focusing on this particular thing, and out of balance is when I'm here talking with you, but my mind is thinking about this thing and this thing, and so all of the many aspects of my life are stacked right there with me in the present moment, and I can't give any attention to any of them. That's what out of balance is like.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you think of a difference between your work and your life?
Gee. I do. Like, for me, it's kind of work is, I'm getting paid for doing something, but it definitely spills out into all those other kind of activities we're talking about growing a business. And then, you know, also, you know, every now and again, I spend some energy on a personal project that, you know, is in my professional field, but just for the pure love of it. And then life mostly means my kids, really, I think, these days. Yeah.
And I guess the you know, like what you get paid for is a significant aspect of what work is, you know, definitely. But then, as you say, it doesn't always neatly fall into those categories, you know, like for sure. And the thing is as well that and I think that what conventionally why people started talking about work-life balance is because the amount of work that needs to be done, regardless of whether you're in working for someone in a in a job or working for yourself, the amount of work that could be done exceeds the number of hours in which you are available to do them.
Absolutely.
So the thing is, that's how it gets out of balance, because you could spend an hour playing with your kids, or you could spend an hour doing that extra marketing that needs to be done. And so I guess that's the more traditional work-life balance being out of step, isn't it?
Carving out a bit of actual life in what would otherwise be consumed with just constant work.
It's the priorities. Yeah, it's the priorities thing that we spoke about at first, isn't it? There's only our time is a limited resource, so there's always more work to be done.
Yeah. But, having said that, then I really love the overlap. When I came and spent the couple of days out with you and Paul there and worked out there, like I loved that. And that was, that was solid work, super productive. But I was visiting my friend and in a nice space. And like this part of my motivation for working for myself is to have the work that I do on my own terms and those kind of scenarios. Occasionally Angel and I will be up and she's working on creating a toy and I'm working late at night and we're doing that. Or even sometimes with the children, they're doing creative things. And I love that when we're all together in a space and doing our work as well. Like that's just wonderful. And then conversely, and this creeps in so easily, and I'll say I hate it, is and this morning it happened when the morning is a nice time. Angel left super early for her prac, but I'm getting the girls ready, and that can be just such a wonderful, lovely time. But I've got this project that I'm working on, and I kind of had to move things along, and and I'm there at the laptop, and I'm not. Yeah, that feels like work sucking away life from me and my children, and I hate that situation. That's a definite out of balance one for me. And yet, it happened just this morning. It's something that is a constant challenge to, I don't know. Yeah, overcome doesn't seem like the right word.
Yeah. I mean, I really hear what you're saying. It's exactly the same. It's like I think what I'm hearing you saying is it's not that work and life fits into neat boxes that you can switch from one to the other, but it's when it's basically comes down to, I think, when it's a problem and when it's not. Like whether when something feels good and when it doesn't. So, and again, I suppose that comes down to awareness. I mean, it sounds like this morning you were aware of it, and it's thinking of like, was it possible in that moment to to have some strategies to kind of thank your mind for being able to like turn over on that project, but recognize that like just kind of let that go for the time being, or it's easier said than done. And I think it starts with awareness, but then I think it's easier said than done to switch it off completely. But the more you're aware of it, the more you're aware of it, the more opportunities there are to have some kind of pause and have some kind of choice, even if not perfectly.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this morning I was there, it was going on, and also going on is I hate that this is going on in my mind as well. I'm like, oh, I think actually not only that, I had the thought earlier in the morning when the girls were just waking, I need to shut the laptop now and not go back to it until, and I didn't do that then as well. It was back and forth. But it looks to me you seem to do that really well, and I'm looking at your lifestyle, and I'm looking at your Buddhist practices, and well, just your general calm and at peace and balanced demeanor. And yeah, no,
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure. I'm not sure. I mean, I certainly don't think I've got it, like all figured out in that respect. But it's something I would like. I mean, I want to set myself up for better success in those areas. So I will make choices that that help me to be more like that. I'm not perfect in it by any means whatsoever, but I will, it's part of what we talked about at the beginning, creating the circumstance. I mean, I want to create, and I recognize that as a privilege, but creating the circumstances in which I haven't got so much going on that it just feels so overwhelming that it's almost impossible to to have that kind of balance. So, but I recognize that, I do realize that that's a real privilege, and my life circumstances are very different from yours as well. I do recognize that I'm in a situation where I don't have a lot of priorities to juggle, so the anything that's out of balance for me is within my own mind, really. I haven't got a lot of external things to juggle in the same way that you have. I guess we all have our things too.
Yeah.
I mean, your juggling is what you want to juggle. I'm not sort of saying that, it's but I'm recognizing the differences.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's both true that it's in the mind what your priorities are and where you focus it and how you balance it, and there's external things that comprise the priorities and the things that you give consideration to.
Yeah, for sure.
I spent a little bit of time in the garden before we're speaking now, and I love when I do that so much, and it's such a rare thing. Yeah, that's. I enjoyed when I stayed there with you and Paul, and we did the walk through the trees in the morning and some Tai Chi.
Yeah.
And had some tea to drink. That just. That's certainly something of a dream. And yeah, getting young children ready for school isn't. I don't think it's compatible with that. So yeah.
Right.
But
I don't always do it either. It's I want to, and I do, and I'm making it into a daily practice. But there are times when there are plenty of times when I don't do it either. And I think that, I mean, one thing that I have really tried to do and really tried to put into practice is to kind of cut myself a bit of slack with it as well. If there are times when I know that it would be better for me to do something, and instead, I'm starting, I go immediately into starting work, or and I skip the things that I know will be really beneficial to me. But one thing I've really tried to do is just be a bit patient with myself, but knowing when I'm just, knowing when the difference between sort of being kind to myself and also just making excuses. And so it's not always easy to know which one, because but deep down I do know whether I need to be kind to myself or whether I need to say no, you can do, you can make good choices. Yeah, there's that.
I really like that too, actually. Kind to yourself versus, would you say, just avoiding?
Well, you know, like this, yeah, and this thing that, you know, if I do find myself, you know, like churning over a problem, you know, like in the past, I might have the kind of like self-talk might have been, you know, what is wrong with you, you know, what is wrong with you, you know, like, you know. Whereas now, you know, like it's much more a case of, oh gosh, Shelby, then it's much more a case of, can you hear the
Is that the
rain?
rain? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we've had I think we're going to have it's one of the problems of an unconventional office space. Yeah, there's a bit of a storm happening at the moment. So
Yeah, right. Cool. Here.
I don't know if it's going to blow up or not. Yeah.
But I was going to ask you, because I really struggle with like self-discipline. Like, you know, I'm going to meditate every morning. I feel so much better if I do. And I was going to ask you if yeah, how you consider your relationship to disciplining yourself in terms of having a routine and things like that. But which, you know, if you have another answer, I'd love to hear. But I really like what you said about kind of recognizing, and I think I do know it too, when, like, in this moment, am I being lazy, or am I no, what was the word that you used? It's all right, it's recorded, I'll be able to go back. But like, should I be kind to myself here, or should I push myself to do what I should do?
Yes. Yeah. 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 In terms of I actually like structure. I do better with discipline, with some structure, but I'm also not good at structure either. So I know that I know, well, in the sense that I do well with structure, like having the same routine, sitting at my desk and working for this, you know, like more or less the same hours. I do well with those things, so long as I can be flexible within that structure. And I think it's the same thing as well. It's knowing when I should be flexible, and knowing, and then not using that as an excuse. So just because I don't feel like doing something doesn't mean that I shouldn't do it.
Yeah,
But it's knowing when, if I don't feel like doing something, it's knowing when to pay attention to that and think, I really don't feel like doing this now. You know, maybe I can take advantage of the fact that I do have all this flexibility, and I'll do something else instead. Versus, you know, I can do hard things, and this is what I'm going to do now.
Yeah.
Sorry about this noise.
No, yeah, I don't expect you to control the rain.
Did you have the storm? Have you had the storm today?
We did. We had a big downpour come through, and it was just before I was gardening. And then when I was out in the garden, it's still really overcast and it's so wet, but it's not actually raining. It's really lovely,
right.
Kind of cozy. It's nice to be in a robe and beanie, and
yeah, it's a little bit cold here as well. I've got this. Yeah, it's nice to have the rain, because I live in it's dry here normally, but we've had a lot of rain today. So it's just blowing a lot, which is that noise in the background.
Right.
Yeah.
But look, I'm exactly the same as what you were just saying, in terms of structure is really important, but equally important is the ability to not be in the structure at all. And I enjoy like working on a Saturday, and I really enjoy like not working on some weekdays. Just the breach
just because
of,
you can.
Yeah. And the breaking of the convention, I think, as well is.
Yes. Yeah. I certainly a sort of forming habits and repeating those habits works well for me. So when you were talking about I know when you came for those 2 days and we did the meditation and the Tai Chi, and when I create that as a daily habit, that feels really good to me. And when I stop that for any reason, it's difficult to get back into it. so that repetition and habit is, I recognize that for me is a good thing, you know. So waking up each day and having the ultimate freedom to decide, am I going to do this or am I not? Am I going to, you know, like, it doesn't work, doesn't always, it sounds good in theory, but in practice, it doesn't work as well for me. Like in practice, having some kind of repetition and some
structured routine
really works for me.
Yeah, nice. That's really good. I'm kind of feeling to wrap things up about here. Does that sound all right to you?
Yeah.
Cool. Is there anything else that you'd want to add before we do?
I don't think so. I think we've had a good conversation about it. Is there anything else you want to say?
No, nothing in particular that comes to mind. Thanks very much for coming on. You've been aware of it for a little, probably longer than most, because I think I was talking to you about it before it ever launched.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've really enjoyed all of the episodes, actually. I haven't listened to the one with the last one with your brother. I haven't listened to that one yet. So,
but you've listened to all the others.
Yeah, really enjoyed it.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, oh man, I'm really enjoying doing them. That was something that we said that we might talk about is, and I will. What time is it?
At 2:00, I think.
At 2:00. Cool. I told you that I emailed this philosopher hero of mine, Bernardo Castro, on a strange whim, and he responded and said that he would come on. Which.
What do you think it was about? What do you think? How do you think why do you think he responded that way? How did you put it to him? It's so exciting.
Yeah. I'll read you the email. He's just to make sense of how I sign off on it, because it's a very short email. I'm not wearing my glasses. His philosophy describes universal like the world as kind of a universal consciousness, and it's a kind of a stream, and we as conscious beings are like whirlpools in this stream. So we're all part of the same thing, but we're focused on what kind of this winding around, like looking in on ourselves, this kind of feedback loop. I'm not doing it any justice at all. This is what I said. I said, "Hi Bernardo, I just Googled his email address. I've been a huge fan of your work for many years. I know you do podcasts all the time, but I thought I'd ask anyway, would you come and be a guest on mine? It's called The Unfinished Cubby, and it's actually about having balance in life. I promise if you do come on, it'll be a completely different interview to what you usually do, and a fun one too." And then I signed off from one whirlpool to another. Cheers, right. Chris. That was it. And
it's really great that it's really great that he responded, because there's such an emphasis on, like what makes sense for. There's such an emphasis on the numbers. Like I get this sense that people will go on podcasts if the numbers, like match their expectations. So, but what that means is that you get this it gets really boring, because the same people are going on all of the podcasts, because they'll only go on the podcasts that have millions of listeners. And and then whenever I do come across some smaller podcasts like yours, like that, you get to hear it might not be as polished, and it might not be
yeah,
in all sorts of ways, but it's really inspiring to me that he said yes, because like it's not like he looked at your podcast and thought, oh yes, he's got this reach of 500,000 people.
Christine, actually, I think on the YouTube one I'm up to 17 subscribers now.
Oh actually. Well, there you go. Then
so
there you go. He was obviously impressed with that.
But yeah, I've promised him it's going to be really different and lots of fun. So I've been trying to come up with questions, but that's a question I'm going to ask him then is, why did you say yes to come on my podcast?
Yeah. It's going to be really interesting to hear what he has to say. I haven't listened to the video that I haven't come across him before actually, but I will now that you've mentioned him.
Cool. Now I feel inappropriate having finished our podcast together on something that's completely unrelated to you.
It's okay.
So, but I will just say thank you again, and we'll be talking again soon. And
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Chris. I really enjoyed it. And yeah, thank you again.
Thanks for your wisdom. Bye.
Bye.
I'm waving goodbye. So I've just started recording now.
I can't hide. Oh, okay. No worries.
Can't hide.
How are you?
Good. All right. Thanks for doing this with me. And I made I made a note, didn't I, of what we're going to talk about. Yeah, cool. All right. Should we just jump in? I'll do the intro bit and we'll jump in.
Yeah.
Cool. All right.
I hope the weather. We've had all that rain this morning. I don't know if you have as well.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah, you might be able to feel a little bit of rain on the roof. Anyway,
oh yeah, yeah. No, I think it's all right.
Just stopping now.
You don't have a microphone though. It's fine. The sound quality seems totally fine. Yeah, no, I just. All right, so here we go.